It is the end of the year once again, which means it's time for me to compile 10 YouTubers who did bad shit over the course of this year. I won't waste too much time with the intro, but I just want to say this. For those of you who are just coming across this video and have never seen my other worst YouTuber lists, as these do tend to be my higher viewed videos, I don't do these lists in the traditional sense as in I go from 10 to 1, instead I go from 1 to 10. And I also don't really concern myself that much with the order I place these YouTubers in, though I always do save the most egregious for last. So just keep that in mind, and also keep in mind that this list is purely my opinion, so don't scream to the rooftops that I may not have added this YouTuber or that YouTuber. These lists have always been a compilation of YouTubers that I have personally been repulsed by over the course of the year. So anyway, strap in and get ready for me to rip on who I consider to be the 10 worst YouTubers of 2022, with a bonus at the end, of course. The Quantum TV drama takes the cake when it comes to the most bizarre round of YouTube drama of this year. And honestly, it's probably the most bizarre round of YouTube drama I've ever witnessed. It all started when Quantum made an unsavory review of the game Elden Ring. He completely trashed the game and even went the extra mile and said, "Everyone who likes this game is stupid." Now look, I'm not a fan of games like Elden Ring or Bloodborne or Dark Souls or FromSoft games in general either. But there's this thing called different preferences. Just because you personally didn't like a game doesn't mean other people can't like the same game, or that they're stupid for liking the same game. And then a popular gaming YouTuber by the name of the Act Man made fun of and responded to Quantum TV's review of Elden Ring. Quantum wasn't the only person featured in Act Man's video. It was a video critiquing a bunch of people's bad takes on Elden Ring. Quantum just happened to be one of those people. Despite this, Quantum decided it was a good idea to abuse YouTube's DMCA system, and got Act Man's video struck down. After this, the Act Man made a video all about the Quantum TV drama, and that video also got struck down for sexual content because there was like a vague sexual joke within the video involving a cucumber. That's when this drama gets really messy. It goes from making fun of a YouTuber's bad review on a video game to highlighting potential corruption within YouTube's moderation team. Because the Act Man was far from the only person targeted. Other channels like Review Tech USA and Mischief were also getting their videos discussing the situation taken down. So it begs the question, is Quantum buddy-buddy with someone who is higher up at YouTube? Who knows? But him being a false flagger isn't even the worst of it. This is what makes the situation so fucking bizarre. He called the Act Man's mother. Yes, you heard that right. A grown man is calling another grown man's mother over some internet drama. Like we're back in fucking pre-K. He also said something during the call that Act Man perceived as a threat. He said something along the lines of, "I wouldn't want families to get involved because this situation is getting pretty messy." Do I think that this is necessarily a threat? No, not really, because Quantum himself is a father and a husband. I honestly think he was mostly referring to him not wanting his own family to potentially be harmed because of all this drama. But I'm not going to deny that's certainly a weird thing for a stranger to tell you in regards to some feud they have with your son. In response to this, Act Man said, "If you come near my family, will shoot on sight." Quantum, of course, proceeded to play victim and say, "See, he threatened me." No, dude, once you involve family who have nothing to do with the YouTube drama you're involved in, all bets are off. I have a bit of a theory as to why he reached out to Act Man's mother. He says it's because he wanted to reach out to Act Man himself to try to settle things, but he could have easily done that in DMs or in a Discord call. He most certainly did not fucking need Act Man's personal phone number just for that. But instead, I think he wanted to hold Act Man's personal phone number over his head and say, "If you continue to prolong this drama, I got your personal phone number, I could leak it." I am 99% sure it was an attempt at a power move and an attempt to seem scary. But after this, he is perceived as quite the opposite. He is known as the grown man calling another grown man's mommy over some internet drama. Like, at that point, you may as well get a fucking binky and a baby bottle, because you will forever be known as the adult calling other people's parents because they pissed you off online. Also, on top of this, Quantum is extremely homophobic. More videos this week, so many heterophobic individuals show themselves today. I say spread the word. Quantum Apotheosis is anti-gay. I'm not sorry. Going forward, I will continue saying things just like this. I hope to get rid of all the scumbags demanding my submission to liberal ideals. And this one's a lot more egregious. In response to The Last of Us 2 having LGBT representation, you have LGBT kissing in church, but we're bigots for rejecting this hateful content? Ugh, why weren't you a Pulse victim? The world would have been a better place without you. Hashtag boycott, hashtag the LGBT of us. So if you're an LGBTQ plus person, Quantum wishes that you were at Pulse nightclub the night 49 people were shot dead. What a swell guy, am I right? He tried to claim that these posts and these screen caps weren't written by him, but these were from his Facebook and Twitter that are linked on his channel. But then he tried to say, oh no, I was hacked, that was a hacker writing those things. So why the fuck didn't you delete those posts? Personally, if my social media got hacked, and the hacker wanted to make it seem like I would be okay with LGBT people being murdered, I would delete that shit the instant I get access to my accounts again, and make it abundantly clear that I did not write that, and I do not support in any way, shape, or form what those posts said. So Quantum is either very fucking stupid, or he really did in fact write those posts. Okay, let's be honest, it's both. So anyway, unfortunately there's no happy ending to this story. Quantum is still festering on YouTube like a fucking cockroach. People really tried to get him banned for his DMCA abuse, his extreme bigotry, to no avail. And also people tried to highlight that his mere existence on this website is a TOS violation, because apparently he had an old YouTube channel that was terminated. But I can't really lambaste him for that, because technically I'm not supposed to be on here either, because I had a channel from years ago that was terminated. Okay, I should probably stop talking now. Let's move on. This is a channel that got terminated some months ago, and for a very good reason. It's Owen was a channel that primarily posted, from what I can gather, complete clickbait garbage. And YouTube said enough was enough when a few months ago, Technoblade, a popular Minecraft streamer, passed away, and It's Owen uploaded a video called Mr. Beast Says Goodbye to Technoblade. Except the video Owen posted wasn't a video of Mr. Beast discussing Technoblade's death. It was just clickbait garbage to capitalize off of Technoblade's death. I am certain this was Owen's thought process. Mr. Beast is like the most popular YouTuber ever, and Technoblade's death is a very hot topic right now. Everyone's talking about it, so if you mash the two together, that would make me a lot of money. Except this backfired big time, because like I said earlier, his channel of 3.5 million subscribers was terminated as a result of this. What makes his termination even more hilarious is if you went on his Twitter around the time his channel got shit-canned, you would see tweets like this, @TeamYouTube. My YouTube channel with 3.5 million subs just got terminated. Please help me get it back. I'm so depressed right now, I don't know what to do. Tough fucking shit. Cry me a fucking river. Your first thought after this person died was, how can I capitalize off of this person's death? And you're sad? You're fucking sad? Imagine being a family member or a close friend of Technoblade, and then you see all these assholes online trying to capitalize off of his death. I don't know about all of you, but I would say those people are a lot more entitled to feel sad and depressed than this dumbass losing their stupid-ass YouTube channel. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. If you wanted to keep your YouTube channel, maybe you shouldn't have thought it was a good idea to use it to exploit someone's death. Like, what is the thought process of these people? Of course, money and attention first and foremost. I'm not naive, I get that, but I just wonder, how do these people live with themselves? How do you wake up one day, notice that a beloved content creator passed away, and then think, how can I make money off of their death? And then think you're at least a halfway decent person. I would say that I hope It's Owen's termination sets an example for all of these other clickbait YouTubers to not try to capitalize off of the death of another content creator, but I know that it won't. Next time another popular content creator passes away, we're gonna see all of these fucking people do the same thing It's Owen did. make deceptive videos to profit off of the situation because they're conscience-lacking assholes. And unfortunately, the internet has no shortage of people like that. And also, much like Quantum TV, its Owen's mere existence on this website was a TOS violation because apparently he's had more than one channel terminated in the past. So at least in this instance, YouTube took action. Wait, should I even be celebrating that because I had a channel? Let's not get into that again. Let's move on. I'm kind of blurring the lines with my pick here because Rooster Teeth is not a channel run by a singular person, but instead is a digital media company that predates YouTube. But come on, everyone knows Rooster Teeth from their YouTube channel, especially if you were watching YouTube in the 2000s and early 2010s. So what did Rooster Teeth do exactly? Well, it all starts with a twitlonger made by a former content creator and video editor for Rooster Teeth named Kaden Jensen. She worked with Rooster Teeth from 2013 up until earlier this year. She alleges that the working conditions over at Rooster Teeth were horrible. For example, from GameIndustry.biz, Jensen alleged that her work as a contractor was unpaid for over 10 months, from February to November 2013. When she brought it up as she was being hired permanently, she was reportedly told, "It's been so long already. It's not a really big deal, is it?" She was repeatedly called the F-slur by co-workers, and when she reported this to HR, they didn't care. And when she was featured in Rooster Teeth videos, in the videos they would call her Fugs. F-U-G-Z. That nickname is supposed to mean the F-slur, and many fans for many years have called her this nickname because that's what they mostly knew her by. In 2013, she got a Christmas bonus of $100, and when she was being handed this money, the person handing it to her said, "Why do you get a bonus? You've only been here for 5 minutes." She also suffered a lot of crunch during her time at Rooster Teeth. She said she would often arrive at work at 7 a.m. and stay until 9 p.m. so she would have time to edit all the videos she would have to edit for the day. Eventually, she was transferred to a different department to produce and run and even edit a new podcast Rooster Teeth was coming up with, but she was never given the producer position she was promised. And she even also says, "I was never allowed even near the podcast unless they were, quote, desperate for a last-minute person," unquote. She then writes, "I went entirely uncredited for anything I wrote for them, and I was pushed to edit 3 videos from start to finish every day with little to no turnaround time so they could be posted immediately." Her hours in that department spanned from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. She also faced harassment from her manager, and when she went to HR about this, she had a meeting with her manager where her manager only said, "I'm sorry," but his behavior didn't change at all. And then when she went to what she calls was one of the founding fathers of Rooster Teeth about this, they replied with, "Oh, well, you're just too nice to work at Rooster Teeth then. You should go work somewhere else." So basically, they just brush off all of the harassment she's been receiving and the concerns she has, and pretty much says, well, everything that's going on is kinda on you. Go find work elsewhere if you have that much of a problem with it. And the problem here is, Jensen is an out trans woman, and she lives in Texas, so saying, "just find another place to work," isn't a fucking solution, nor is it that easy for a person like that. In 2020, she says she was paid around $40K a year, and she claims that is below the industry standard. The second lowest paid person at Rooster Teeth at the time was being paid nearly $70K a year. So Rooster Teeth was underpaying her by nearly $30,000. So I think I've gone over all of the worst shit that was laid out in this twitlonger, and hopefully that was a good feel of how fucking awful of a company Rooster Teeth is. Following this twitlonger, many former Rooster Teeth employees, and some even current Rooster Teeth employees, corroborated her story, and one person even mentioned seeing the N-word hard R written on a whiteboard. This just kinda sucks to learn, because I did like Rooster Teeth's content when I was in, middle school. I didn't watch Rooster Teeth religiously or anything, they weren't one of my favorite channels, but I did like watching their content from time to time whenever YouTube would recommend it to me, and I would have a fun time watching it when I was 12 years old. I felt the same way when the Change the Channel document came out against Channel Awesome, the channel that Nostalgia Critic is a part of. I stopped liking Nostalgia Critic for years by the time that document came out, but it was still kind of a gut punch because I have a lot of fond memories watching Nostalgia Critic videos. Nostalgia Critic was my shit when I was in like 5th and 6th grade. But my disappointment aside, I absolutely stand with Caden and everyone else who were mistreated by Rooster Teeth. I hope they find work elsewhere in a much better and safer environment. And one more thing, this is far from Rooster Teeth's only tango with controversy. Voice actor Vic Mignogna was cut off by Rooster Teeth in February 2019 following sexual misconduct allegations, and in October of that following year, they also cut off Ryan Hayward and Adam Kovic because they were both involved in a scandal involving sending nudes to underage fans. So, real swell people over at this company, am I right? God, just let Rooster Teeth burn to the fucking ground. Alex Stein is a right-wing political pundit who works for The Blaze. He is best known for, in Wikipedia's words, quote-unquote trolling public local government meetings. And one of those troll jobs includes one he did earlier this year, where he was on the steps of the Capitol building, calling Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez his, quote, big booty Latina. In the video, she stops and gives a peace sign to the camera. On Twitter, she said, here is a video he posted of the incident. I was actually walking over to Deckham, because if no one will protect us, then I'll do it myself, but I needed to catch a vote more than a case today. People defended this guy by saying, oh, but it's just a joke, bro. She was obviously okay with it at the moment because she went up to the camera and did a peace sign, then went on Twitter and said that just to seem all big and tough. May I ask, what the fuck even is the joke going up to someone and sexually harassing them? Because what he did was the textbook definition of sexual harassment. He went up to someone, made unwanted sexually charged remarks that made the person uncomfortable. Oh, AOC is made uncomfortable by a stranger with a camera calling her a big booty Latina. Isn't that so fucking hilarious? Like, no. I don't care if it was supposed to be just a joke. There are certain boundaries you don't cross. There's making people uncomfortable with your joke to prove a point, and then there's just plain being an asshole. For example, George Carlin's fantastic bit on the 7 dirty words you can't say on television. That routine was so controversial, it inspired the Supreme Court to make a decision to allow the FCC to restrict on vulgar content on mainstream airwaves. The point of that bit was to highlight the hypocrisy we have when it comes to vulgar language. Most of us say words like fuck or shit on a day-to-day basis, but we can't hear it on our TVs. The fallout that resulted from that bit only proved his point. The reason I am talking about all this is to just contrast good comedy that makes people uncomfortable and bad comedy that makes people uncomfortable. What point was Alex Stein proving besides people don't like it when they're sexually harassed? What is the punchline to going up to a person unprompted and calling them their big booty Latina? Nothing. When you do shit like that, you're just an asshole for the sake of being an asshole. And to all of you people defending this dude, just admit it, you like shitty behavior. I would still think you're a deplorable person for finding comedy in sexual harassment, but at least you would be a little more honest. So yeah, anyway, fuck Alex Stein and his brand of quote-unquote comedy, and fuck anyone who finds this type of humor to be hilarious. Oh boy, this is a person I've been wanting to talk about on this channel for a while. Shuan Head is a channel a lot of you are probably familiar with. She was really big in the anti-SJW days as a woman making anti-feminist content. She has since moved on from that form of content, and in recent years she at least appeared to be moving leftward. She was a very big Bernie supporter, in favor of things such as universal healthcare, and I was like, you know what? Maybe she's cool now. And for a few years, I watched her content. She wasn't my favorite YouTuber or anything, but, you know, I was decently entertained by her content. But what got me really sour about her initially was her populist brain rot, and if you're wondering what I mean by that, I made a whole video about that called Anti-Liberal Leftist, even though she's not a leftist, but still, It goes after the general idea. She still hung out frequently with right-wingers, even far right-wing figures, and still talks to on a regular basis with someone who is a regular guest on Tucker Carlson and pushes the gay groomer rhetoric. I was increasingly getting more fed up with her as time went on, and then eventually she joined this far right-wing group in New York, only because they had the word populist in their name, and she barely did any fucking research before joining this group. She eventually left this group when she found out what they were really about, but even still, that was enough for me to tap out last year. Anyway, fast forward to June of this year, and she makes this tweet. I don't like being gaslit about how totally not weird this is. Her tweet is referring to this sign that can be seen in the back of a drag show that kids were in attendance at. Obviously, the phrase, "it's not gonna lick itself," can have a few meanings attached to it, if you know what I mean, but this is actually a sign that's used in ice cream parlors. This is a picture from Cauldron Ice Cream from San Diego, California. The same exact neon sign, "it's not gonna lick itself," is in this specific ice cream parlor. And plus, there have been way worse sexual innuendos in cartoons children have watched. Remember the episode in Dexter's Laboratory where Dexter hires a hooker? Or in SpongeBob where SpongeBob hands Gary bars of soap and says, "Doubloons, don't drop them." Someone should get Shuan Head on that right away so she can start another moral crusade against Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon. Anyway, while Shuan Head was not the first person to raise concern over this sign, she was definitely the one that popularized this story. Her tweet fucking popped off among right-wingers on Twitter, and even got to the point where people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert were talking about this. And then this story ended up on the lap of Fox News. Tucker Carlson was talking about this. And then, and this is the biggest reason as to why Shuan Head is on this list, this inspired anti-drag legislation in Texas. Now, this prompted Shuan Head to feel some sort of regret and admit that perhaps she does use her platform irresponsibly. She doesn't regret raising awareness on the story, but she only regrets how far this went. So you would think that Shuan Head would learn her lesson and not jumpstart another moral panic that right-wingers would lunge at to justify their bigotry, right? Nope. Just last month, she shared some really questionable photos from the fashion line Balenciaga. One photo shows a child holding a bear in what appears to be BDSM gear, although some people contest this and say it's actually goth gear that the bear is wearing, but I don't fucking know. It's still kind of weird to me. And in another photo shoot, there were a stack of papers, and one of those papers included a court case upholding federal law prohibiting child pornography. Now that is definitely very fucking strange, and I'm not knocking Shuan Head for finding this stuff to at least be questionable. But the tweet she made raising awareness of this, again, completely popped off among right-wingers on Twitter, and the right wing lunged at this to justify their bigotry against LGBTQ plus people. Some were even using this to justify anti-Semitism. And she did absolutely nothing to quell this. She didn't say, "Right-wingers, stop using this to justify your bigotry." Nothing. What she did instead was block any left-winger who called her out and said, "Hey, why are you seemingly okay with cultivating these types of people?" And then she made an absolutely awful video where she flat out fucking lies about the reaction her post sparked. She was like, "Yeah, sure, some right-wingers went a little extreme with this story, but what do you want me to do? I'm a public figure. I can't possibly control everyone who engages with my posts." Which, yes, in a vacuum, is a valid point. She has over 1 million YouTube subscribers and has like 500k followers on Twitter. There is absolutely no way she can control everyone who engages with the content she puts out on the internet. But she could have at the very fucking least write a follow-up tweet and say, "Hey, to all of you right-wingers who are using this story to justify your bigotry, fuck off. You're wrong and you're stupid." But she doesn't seem to want to do that. She is so fucking quick to lambaste the left-wing people who criticize her and call her out, but the right-wing people who use her tweets to justify their hatred, no, they're fine. They're not worthy of her scrutiny. It's almost like she's perfectly okay with cultivating a bigoted fan base and doesn't give a shit whatsoever about the ramifications of her actions. Balenciaga stores were vandalized, and she showcases that in her video and almost passes it off as a good thing. Now, on its own, I don't care. Balenciaga is a multi-billion-dollar company. They can survive some property damage. But there were workers in those stores. There were customers in those stores. Someone could have been seriously hurt. And Shuan Head is sitting there like, tee-hee, my post caused some vandalism. She point blank says in her video she did nothing wrong and this behavior will continue. Now that doesn't really sound like someone who was sorry about this exact behavior influencing anti-LGBTQ plus legislation some months ago. I can't fucking stand this woman. I can't believe there was a point in time where I actually respected Shuan Head. And here's a little PSA. Shuan Head knows exactly what the fuck she's doing, she knows the type of audience she has, she knows the kind of harm her tweets can cause, and the sheer lack of care when it comes to the harm that her tweets cause shows that she is seemingly okay with it. So for the love of fucking God, stop treating her like a naive child who doesn't know what she's doing. She is a grown woman. What is she, 31, 32? She knows the consequences of her actions. And her complete lack of care shows that she doesn't give a shit whatsoever about the consequences of her actions. And the fact that this keeps on happening shows that she is not naive, she is likely malicious. Get this through your fucking head already. Andrew Tate is a former kickboxer turned hyper-misogynist and professional scammer. To an audience of mostly young boys, Tate propagates garbage like women are just supposed to be the property of men, they can't be independent whatsoever, they can't do things like drive, their only responsibility should be tending for the home and taking care of the man. In response to a question asking what would he do if a woman accused him of cheating, he says, it's bang out the machete, boom in her face, and grip her by the neck. Shut up, bitch. He also lives in Romania. No, that alone is not reason enough to hate him. But the reason he moved there is certainly enough reason to hate him. By his own admission, he moved there because in Romania you are less likely to be investigated by police for sexual assault. But, even despite that, his Romania home was still raided by law enforcement. From Sportskita.com, sources claim that Tate's residence was visited by Romanian police in April as part of an ongoing human trafficking investigation. Romania's Directorate for Investigating Organized Crime and Terrorism said that the raid was part of an investigation that found an unidentified woman being held hostage at the home. I'm honestly not surprised that the guy that has said, if you put yourself in a position to be raped, you must bear some responsibility, partakes in human trafficking. This is a man that so many young boys look up to, and it's very frightening. Teens and adolescents in general are young, dumb, and impressionable, and if they hear this shit on a day-to-day basis, especially from someone that they idolize, they're probably going to begin to emulate this behavior, and believe in the verbal diarrhea that Andrew Tate spews. A woman got raped? It must be her fault somehow. How do I treat my girlfriend if an Andrew Tate fan is lucky enough to even get one in the first place? Treat her like my property. And because she is my property, and because the only place for a woman to be in life is in a place that is subservient to a man, I get to beat the shit out of her if she ever says anything that I don't like. This is the kind of shit that is being ingrained in the minds of so many young boys who listen and look up to a fuckface like Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate is the living embodiment of everything that is wrong with toxic masculinity. He always has to be the tough guy that never shows his emotions because anytime a man may display any vulnerability, that puts his masculinity on the line. You always have to be independent. There should never be a time where you have to depend on someone else, especially if it's a woman. And just be an aggressive douchebag in general, and in no time, you will be swimming in pussy. My biggest issue is a lot of teenage boys listen to this shit and think behavior like this is their ticket to getting laid. Well, here's a little news flash. It's likely that if you treat a person like shit, tell them that they're supposed to be subservient to you because they're your property, they're not going to let you slide into them. Because most sound-minded people don't want a partner that's an abusive asshole towards them. But so many boys have been intaking the garbage rhetoric that Andrew Tate has been promoting, and as a result of that, we've been seeing an uptick of girls being harassed by high school boys. And he knows full well that he has a young, dumb, and impressionable fan base, and plays them like a fucking fiddle, like when he had Hustlers University. Basically, this was a get-rich-quick scheme, where people had to pay $49.99 to enter. Basically, Hustlers University was a Discord server made up of supposedly professors that taught financial advice. All of these professors had zero accreditation whatsoever, but still, Hustlers University at its peak had approximately 127,000 members. And if you do the math, which other websites have already done for me, that means Tate and his cohorts got over $6 million. Tate shut down Hustlers University shortly after he was shit-canned off of all prominent social media, and said that the university had no future. Yes, this program that Andrew Tate said was the place to go to if you wanted to get rich quickly, no, it had no future. All I can hope for is all of these stupid teenagers currently taking such an obvious bullshit artist like Andrew Tate seriously grow up, and in a few years they look back at this phase of their lives and cringe. And once all of these teenage boys grow up and mature, hopefully, fucking hopefully, Andrew Tate fades into irrelevancy and people forget about him. All of his prominent social media, like his TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, were shut down, but his Twitter was reinstated by Elon Musk, Mr. Free Speech until I get my feelings hurt. Since he got reinstated, he's been tweeting bangers like this. Reading books is for losers who are afraid to learn from life, so they try and learn the life others have lived. But you never really learn unless you lived it. You must feel it to believe it. Books are a total waste of time. Education is for cowards. So what about Hustlers University? Wasn't that literally a scheme for people to get educated on how to get rich quickly, supposedly? Oh, whatever. This guy is a complete fucking bullshit artist, so I don't expect him to be consistent. I don't even know where the fuck to begin with Matt Walsh. Well, first off, he is a right-wing commentator that works for the Daily Wire, and he is easily one of the leading faces in the rise of rampant transphobia and the rise of rampant hatred against the LGBTQ+ community in general we've seen this year. In September, a children's hospital in Boston received multiple bomb threats from an individual because people like Matt Walsh and libs of TikTok were leading the charge against this children's hospital for providing gender-affirming care to trans kids. They were spreading blatant misinformation like this children's hospital is mutilating children, and after the person who sent these threats was arrested, Walsh and other right-wing commentators were quick to say, no, this is a false flag, this was done by a leftist to make us look bad. But no, following this person's arrest, authorities looked into his background and found that he made more than 230 contributions exclusively to 3 Republican sources: the Republican National Committee, the committee's fundraising platform Win Red, and committees supporting the 2020 re-election campaign of Donald Trump, according to the Los Angeles Blade. So this is a person that listened to the false information spread by people like Matt Walsh and decided to take matters into his own hands and threaten a children's hospital. Remember that Matt Walsh likes to paint himself as this crusader that fights for the children. He wants to protect the kids from being indoctrinated by the evil LGBTQ+ community. Meanwhile, when one of his supporters issues out a bomb threat to a children's hospital, whatever. Let me lie and say leftist did it. I don't need to take any responsibility for the rhetoric I propagate on my platform at all. Following the Club Q shooting, in which 5 people were killed inside an LGBTQ+ nightclub, Matt Walsh said this: "But even by their version of events, if it's causing this much chaos and violence, why do you insist on continuing to do it? If according to you, it's like putting people's lives at risk, if the effort to have men cross-dress in front of children is putting people's lives at risk, why are you still doing it? Is it that important to you?" So he is point-blank blaming the victims of this shooting and the LGBTQ+ community in general for this shooting happening in the first place. It certainly has nothing to do with the acceleration of hatred for these people among the right wing in this year alone. No. This man is utterly repulsive and dangerous. The type of rhetoric he promotes on his platform is getting people harmed and even killed, and it doesn't matter to him. He doesn't have a fucking care in the world because it's happening to a group of people that he hates. And let me be perfectly clear. He does not give a single shit whatsoever about the safety of adolescents. He takes an actual serious issue, like predatory pieces of shit preying on minors, and twists and distorts it so he can direct people's anger away from people who actually harm minors and are a danger to minors, to a marginalized group of people made up mostly of people who don't engage in such disgusting behavior, so he can justify his own bigotry and the bigotry of others. And if you're not yet convinced he's not someone who cares about the safety of minors, here's a quote where he basically comes out in favor of teenage pregnancy and marriage. The problem is not per se teenage pregnancy, it's unwed pregnancy. Girls between the ages of like 17 and 24 is when they're technically most fertile. And he claimed that it's only a recent concept that society decided that a teenager is too young to start a family. So he wants to go back to the times where 15-year-old girls were getting impregnated by and married to like 35-year-old men. Because back in those days, 9 times out of 10, it wasn't teenagers marrying other teenagers, it was teenage girls marrying grown men. And a lot of the times, it wasn't because that teenage girl wanted to marry that man, it was through force, arranged marriages, which is another thing that he wants brought back, by the way. He said this back in like 2010 or 2011 on the Matt and Prank Show, a local radio show he had at the time. And you might be saying, well, that's 10 plus years ago. Surely his opinions are different now regarding teenage pregnancy, right? Nope, that clip of him advocating for teenage pregnancy resurfaced just recently, and he says he refuses to be cancelled and apologizes for nothing. That's not all, though. Here's a really creepy clip from an old video of his where he talks about the concept of consent.
Minds, we have really two categories. There are non-consensual sex, which is bad, and then we have consensual sex, which we think is always good. That's what the culture says. A lot of us have, most of us, it seems like that's the idea that we have. It's like, as long as they're consenting adults who choose to do this thing, then it must be okay. But the reality is that there's a lot of bad sex. There's a lot of immoral sex. There's a lot of disordered, gross, harmful sex that is nonetheless consensual. All of the cases that I mentioned, they're all immoral, bad, gross, harmful. But they're not all rape. Some of them were, not all of them. And until we acknowledge that there are other ways to have immoral sexual relations with a person, until we reclaim sexual morality and sexual boundaries, we will be stuck trying to condemn all bad sex on the grounds of consent, which expands the idea of consent so broadly as to render it meaningless, so that when we really need it, when there is actual non-consensual sex happening, we don't have any meaningful way to describe it, because the word consent has become is increasingly means nothing, because we've expanded it so much, and we've turned it into this complicated equation where nobody really knows when consent is happening. And even if a person does something willingly and is like, yes, let's do this, but even that might not be consent, because we've turned consent into this super confusing calculus.
Matt Walsh is basically saying here, people whine about the concept of consent so much that they've muddied the waters and we don't even know what consent is anymore. Even though it is widely accepted that consenting to sex means two adults are mutually comfortable with engaging in intercourse together, but I guess that's too complicated for Matt Walsh. In that same video, he defends Asia Argento, a grown woman who was exposed for having a sexual relationship with a 17-year-old boy, but because she's an attractive actress, and her victim was a teenage boy, it's okay. Also in that same video, he defends Theodore McCarrick, a former cardinal that was accused of molesting several underage boys and seminarians. He glosses over the part where this guy raped young boys and focuses on him raping seminarians, saying that the seminarians are grown men, so why didn't they just fight them off? Because a grown man can't possibly be the victim of something like this. Right-wingers, I gotta ask you, do you really want a guy like this to be the face of your moral crusade against trans people and the LGBTQ+ community in general? A guy that is perfectly fine with teen girls getting pregnant and getting married, a guy that is perfectly fine with women raping underage boys, a guy that thinks men getting molested isn't a real issue. If you ask me, you guys are in desperate need of a better mascot for your moral crusade. Because this guy is a creepy, repulsive motherfucker, and I would not be surprised whatsoever if sometime in the future we begin to see some serious accusations come his way. But if you still want to support this guy, in spite of all of the shit he has said and the shit he supports, then I have nothing else to say besides that speaks volumes of your moral character. Boy in a Band was a popular YouTuber and musician back in the 2010s. You probably know him for his song Don't Stay in School, a song that really resonated with me back in my high school days. He was also featured in a diss track iDubbbz made against Rice Gum. God, remember when diss tracks were popular on YouTube? I don't miss those days at all. But anyways, what did he do? Well, first off, he hasn't uploaded a single video since December of 2019. 3 years ago, and while we don't know the exact reason why he has seemingly abandoned his channel of over 1 million subscribers, the following may at least partially be a reason why. A post on his subreddit claiming to have been written by several women who have dated him at some point in their lives came forward and detailed his pattern of dating girls who were significantly younger than him and his abusive behavior towards them. It first brings up a girl named Rachel, who he dated when she was 17 years old and he was 23. She was a fan of his and fell in love with him at the age of 15. Allegedly, he physically abused her, then would later tell at least 2 of his future girlfriends about how he would hit her. And also, Rachel was featured in a song of his, where she sang the lyrics, "Take me without my consent," at age 17. Fucking yikes. The post then says he has a pattern of preying on his young fans. After they admire him and write to him on his social media, he starts to date them. He then tells them how much he loves them, that they are replaceable, and finally discards them for new ones as soon as they disagree or refuse to do whatever he wants. The post also makes the claim that he is a hebephile, and has a history of looking at porn where women dress like children, and also porn where women are abused and assaulted. The post then says most of his recent girlfriends were 10 or more years younger than him. He is currently 35. According to the post, he prefers young girls because he has power and control over them, and he never views them as his equals. The post then says, what we mean by that is young, poor girls, often students with no big careers yet, whom he can impress by his quote-unquote success and money. He exclusively chooses girls with a vast gap in money and influence so he can manipulate and mold them. Most of them were too scared to speak out about it due to this reason. His preferences also include a physical superiority over his partners, looking very young, pre-adolescent, usually very skinny, and if not, he encourages them to lose weight, calling them lazy and disgusting. That's from a man who made a song with Jaden Animations to help girls, quote-unquote, with anorexia. Then, he coerced multiple young girls into being polyamorous, even if it was something they had never considered before him. He advertises it as a superior way of living, which is highly inappropriate if not abusive. He tells his partners that they're replaceable, disappears if they don't do everything he wants, and treats them with zero empathy. They mean nothing to him outside of his pleasure, his wants, and his entertainment. When girls want to leave, he either blocks them before they can confront him, or uses his depression and suicidality as cards to force them to stay until he gets bored of them. He uses his depression to control girls by justifying why he treats them like garbage or playing the victim card. He refuses to take any personal responsibility and accountability for how cruel, vindictive, callous, hurtful, and abusive he is. If you ever wondered why years of therapy never really helped him, it's because he cannot face who he really is, and he's unable to take ownership of the things he did, painting himself in bright light in front of his therapist. So that should give you a good insight into who Boy in a Band really is. A fake motherfucker who wants to put on the veneer of being a good guy who wants to help those who are younger than him. He'll make songs about anorexia, but behind closed doors, he'll ridicule the fuck out of girls he tried to force into eating disorders by saying they're too lazy because they're not skinny enough. And I've seen people try to defend this guy by saying, well, in the UK, which is where Boy in a Band is from, the legal age of consent is 16. And nowhere in this post does it say that he dated someone, that we know of at least, who was under the age of 16. So all of this is actually perfectly legal. So therefore, he is fine. We shouldn't criticize him. This is the main point I want to make in this section. I do not solely base my morals around legality, and neither should you. I don't give a single fuck if that in certain parts of this world, it is perfectly legal for a grown adult to date and have sex with a 16-year-old. I think adults have no business engaging in such a relationship with someone that young. And it's purely because of shit like this. Adults who are looking for someone that young are looking for someone to control. There is a severe power imbalance between someone who is a grown adult and a 16-year-old. And in in this case, there was an extra layer of said power imbalance because this guy was a famous YouTuber and a well-known musician who these girls were fans of. And he knowingly took advantage of the fact that they admired him. He knew that one, they were young and didn't know any better, and two, they were easy to control because they loved his content so much. And they were starstruck that they got to date their favorite YouTuber slash musician. This is why we, as a world, should not allow grown adults to have inappropriate relationships with people who are in their teen years or just getting out of their teen years, regardless of what the law says. These are people who do not have any real-life experience yet. These are people who are impressionable and easy for adults to control, especially adults whom they may look up to and idolize, and there are many adults out there who are more than willing to exploit that. I am 21 years old, and yet I can't even picture myself dating an 18-year-old. To me, dating someone who may either still be in high school or fresh out of high school is just really fucking gross. This isn't to say I'm so fucking mature or anything, but still, I feel like there's a difference between me, a 21-year-old, and an 18-year-old. So if even 18-year-olds gross me out, oh god, I can't fucking imagine being with a 16-year-old. But to people like Boy in a Band, that age gap, or even bigger age gaps, are perfectly fine. Because he is a sick fuck, and so is anyone else who is fine with a grown adult dating someone who is either still a teenager or just getting out of their teen years. Again, fuck what the law says. I don't care what the age of consent laws are. I don't think adults should be with people who are that young. So stop using the law to excuse this douchebag. There are some unjust laws out there that certainly should be called into question. And on top of that, his behavior is still fucking disgusting. Even if these girls were his age, his behavior is still abusive. Sky Does Minecraft was a popular YouTuber who, well, did Minecraft. I guess they also went through a YouTube midlife crisis because at one point they went by a completely different alias called Net Nobody and made diss tracks or some shit. I don't fucking know, I never kept up with their content. And then they went back to being Sky Does Minecraft and stuck with that for a while before quitting YouTube entirely. It's all convoluted and none of this has any reason as to why they're on this list, so it really doesn't matter anyway. So why are they on this list? Well, a former girlfriend of Sky Does Minecraft, who they also had a child with, came out with some serious allegations against them. She comes forward and says the entire foundation of her relationship with Sky Does Minecraft was coercion. For example, they practically forced her to propose to them, and they also forced her to have their baby. They would also often not take their bipolar medication, sending them into episodes of mania and psychosis, where she faced some horrific abuse. About this, she says, "It started getting scary, and movies don't describe well enough how bad it can get. You started breaking shit, throwing things. You started forcing me into sleep deprivation." She also says, "By the way, Adam likes to call me an abuser for finally retaliating at them physically after they had been chasing me and cornering me. I lashed out after they screamed in my face that they would do everything in my power to make sure the court sees you as an unfit mother." She did not just endure horrible verbal abuse, but also physical abuse on top of that. There would be instances where Sky would kick her stomach while she was pregnant, and she said it hurt so bad that she thought for sure she was going to miscarry. And there were also instances deep into her pregnancy where they would clog up the drain so she would be unable to use the bathroom at home. She also had a dog that they were abusive towards. She says, "You dragged my dog by his throat and threw him into the kennel, then surrounded him by mirrors, all because he was nervous." She also recounts a time where they, in her own words, ended up randomly punching the big amethyst you have from being frustrated and cutting a gash into your knuckle. You came up to me and I continuously tried to clean it up and bandage it while our friends tried to keep you calm. You came up to me with the bandages off and started putting blood in my face and on my arms. I was horrified. You started painting the walls with your blood. You put blood marks on our lizard and our bathroom walls as well as all the mirrors. You elbowed my belly several times. I was just trying to love you. I continuously spoke calmly and did everything I could. Keep in mind, this is when she was still pregnant with their child, and they were elbowing her stomach. She then took them to the hospital. She says, "My pregnant self had to push you through the hospital in a wheelchair while you screamed degrading comments at me. I walked you to the counter, said you needed your hand checked. They asked you if you needed a social worker. I said no, and I started shaking and tears started falling. The lady kept calm and nodded quietly to me, and we were brought up to an inpatient hospital room. You became violent with me. You called me disgusting names, saying racist comments as well as the N-word, and trying to fight staff." In a Twitter thread, this ex-girlfriend also provided a police report, dated February 15th, 2021. This report described Sky as angry, said they were destroying property, saying nonsensical things, and the responding officer concluded that they were a threat to others. Finally, she also accuses Sky of not providing for the family, and said they cheated on her several times. She provides several screenshots and voice recordings on Twitter to prove that they are indeed an awful human being, and following this, Sky's career as a public figure is pretty much fucking ruined. I mean, it's been over for a while now, but, this just kind of seals the fucking deal that they're never making a comeback. Following this, Sky attempted to sell their YouTube channel, which I guess to no avail since the channel is still called Sky Does Minecraft, and no videos have been uploaded onto it since June 2021. I have nothing to add besides Sky Does Minecraft is a fucking vile human being, and is easily one of the most disgusting people on this list. But there is still one more person who tops them. You probably don't recognize the name Zero2, and that's because this person isn't known for being a YouTuber. The person's name who ran this channel is Robert Cimo, and on July 4th, 2022, he shot up an Independence Day parade in Highland Park, Illinois. He killed 7 people and wounded 48 other people, and 8 hours later, he was apprehended by authorities. Following his arrest, authorities looked into his social media history and found that he had a YouTube channel and had music on Spotify. He performed rap songs under the name Awake the Rapper. His lyrics included references to the QAnon conspiracy theory, and some of his music videos on YouTube depicted mass shootings and characters being shot by police. His YouTube channel also included a 6-part manifesto that included illustrations drawn by him depicting how he thought this massacre would go down. Another video also included him on the very street where this massacre would take place. The warning signs were all there on his YouTube channel, but since it was so obscure, it only had a little over 100 subscribers at the time of its termination, no one picked up on them. Unfortunately, those in his personal life are just as oblivious to the warning signs, as he had a permit, sponsored by his father, that allowed him to acquire firearms before the age of 21. What a very normal country, where we have permits that allow people under the age of 21 to acquire guns. Anyway, at least as of right now, no direct motive for this shooting has been uncovered or made public. Despite noticing that he frequented far-right and Nazi-adjacent spaces online, authorities were unable to conclude there were any racial or anti-Semitic motive behind his actions. But anyways, it is genuinely scary to think that there may be a YouTube channel out there right now giving out the warning signs of a potential future massacre. It could even be someone you've interacted with before, or I've interacted with before. You never truly know who the person behind the screen is really like. And so that is my list of the people who I felt were the worst YouTubers of 2022. But I am not done yet. I have one bonus that I'd like to talk about, because this video just isn't long enough, is it? Who is this bonus person? It's probably someone you already know about and probably already hate. It is Boogie2988. I'll keep this brief because I've made my problems with Boogie more than clear at this point. And plus, you're probably eager for this video to end already if you're watching this as it premieres, and I don't blame you whatsoever if you feel that way. I originally wanted to put him on the main list, but he was on the list a few years ago, and also I felt all of the YouTubers on the main list this year did things that were worse than what I'm about to talk about. A few months ago, Boogie put out a video where he explains that he blew all of his money on crypto, and he wanted his audience to bail him out. He begged them to join his Patreon, to watch the ads before his videos. He even said something along the lines of, if you only have $5 to give, you could give that to me via Super Chat. Yeah, Boogie, I don't know how fucking inflated your ego is, but if a person is in a position where they only have $5 to give, I could think of 1,000 better things they could use those $5 for than to give it to your pathetic ass. You chose to be stupid with your money and waste it on crypto bullshit. So why does it have to be on the audience to use their own money to bail you out? The money wouldn't go to a good cause. It's not going to any medical expenses you may have. It's going directly to you, so you could probably waste other people's money on crypto bullshit. Boogie is the lol cow that just keeps on giving. He doesn't learn. He will never learn. And to think people once considered this dude to be the Mr. Rogers of YouTube. I still laugh my ass off at that. So anyways, thank you, Boogie, for being a constant source of entertainment, for all of the wrong reasons, of course, and for also making me feel vindicated in my already low opinion on people who waste their time with crypto. So that is it for real now. If you've made it this far in the video, thank you. Really, thank you. I can't comprehend how one could listen to someone like me for, at this point, 54 minutes straight. Jesus Christ. And I'd also like to thank everyone who participated in the premiere chat of this video. Easily the funnest thing about these videos for me is hanging out with people in the chat as the video premieres, and it truly means a lot to see that there are people out there who anticipate these videos every year, and even go as far as to say they're hyped for these videos. Again, thank you. My appreciation for all of those who tune in is beyond words. And above all else, thank you to all of the YouTubers who fucked up this year for making this video possible in the first place. And here's to a 2023 filled with YouTuber fuck-ups for me to compile and talk about next year. Anyway, time for this video to finally conclude at the 55-minute mark. That's all I have to say. Bye-bye. Here's to a happy and safe 2023 to all of you.